Good evening, and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ+ daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then available on demand. And we're available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple Television, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Wednesday, January 4, 2023, and we are literally live and out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ+ community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ+ evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ+ news, you will see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio models of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ+ community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ+ media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 37 years of the LGBTQ+ experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ+ and broader community.
Well, let's welcome anchor FayWhat. She is a radio and television personality and has a popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, an animal advocate, and owner of Faye's Fur Family. Also, make sure you catch the FayWhat Show, the first LGBTQ+ morning show, Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern, online, or of course on your favorite smart television. Faye, by the way, was also the winner of the 2022 SFGN Best Local Television Personality. Welcome, FayWhat.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be with you all. Happy New Year to some of you that I haven't seen in the last couple of days. Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy
Yeah.
New Year to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. So let's welcome John Hayden, my brother from another mother. A journalist for 27 years. He now works for several outlets, including SFGN, South Florida Gay News, as a reporter and community editor, covering politics, entertainment, and local events directly impacting the LGBTQ+ community. John's interviewed everyone from presidents to Oscar winners and been on more red carpets than me. He spent plenty of time with his family over the holidays, but he really missed hanging out with fellow Gen Zer Maxx Fenning at the skater park and doing gnarly tricks. Is that true? Welcome, John.
That's a typo. It was turning tricks.
Turning tricks with Max. That makes more sense.
And I have a question on the whole red carpet thing and who spent more time on it.
I'm just happy to be among Cher, what Her Majesty the Queen, God rest her soul, and so many others.
Speaking of Maxie, let's welcome him. At just 17, Max founded an amazing nonprofit organization, PRISM, that works to expand access to LGBTQ+ and inclusive education and sexual health resources for LGBTQ youth in Florida. Very, very important. Now at 20, Max is a senior at the University of Florida and serves as PRISM's president. He is at the forefront of the fight over Don't Say Gay. Good evening, Max.
Thank you, John. Let's welcome anchor Glen Weinzimer. Glen is the founder of the Smart Ride, an annual 2-day, 165-mile bicycle ride from Miami to Key West. The Smart Ride has raised and returned over $13.9 million to AIDS and HIV service organizations across Florida in the last 18 years. Glen also owns Bona Italian Restaurant in the heart of Wilton Manors. Bona Italian holds weekly Give Back Mondays. In the past 4.5 years, Bona has raised and returned over $50,000 to help local organizations meet their mission. Welcome, Glen.
Thank you, Max. It is great to be back. It's been more than a month, actually, since I've been here because we did the Smart Ride and then there was traveling in the holidays. So I'm happy to be back on the set with everybody.
I thought your New Year's resolution was to bring in garlic rolls to the studio.
I ate them already, honey.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I went on a Wednesday night because I don't like to compete with another sponsor.
Yeah.
All right.
Congratulations, Glen.
Thank you.
Happy to see you, puppy.
It's great to see everybody. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Wednesday, January 4th, 2023.
Well, we begin by queering up politics. Ominous warning. We are far from done, from Governor DeSantis, state of the state. If you loved or if you hated the last 4 years of Governor Ron DeSantis, get ready for more of the same. In his inaugural address, just after taking the oath of office for his second term as Florida's chief executive, he delivered soaring rhetoric and refined lines from his re-election campaign speeches to tout his record and promise the same approach amped up in his new term. DeSantis declared, quote, "We're far from done," end quote. DeSantis didn't offer a list of specifics. Governors usually provide details in their state of state addresses at the beginning of their annual legislative session, but he offered some clues about what was coming, most of which he signaled as he ran for re-election. One thing DeSantis didn't do in the 16-minute-plus speech is to give an indication of just how long he expects that term to be. A full 4 years or something less if he runs and is successful at a widely expected candidacy for president in 2024. DeSantis has been unique among Florida governors in being able to win passage of a significantly conservative agenda. He said, quote, 4 years ago, we promised to pursue a bold agenda. We did just that, and we have produced results. Since 2019, Florida has taxed lightly, spent conservatively, reformed education, ended judicial activism, promoted water quality and Everglades restoration, and stood for law and order, end quote. Well, I think the right term, I watched his speech. Ominous is the right word. He is a dark cloud on everything LGBT in the state of Florida. And I would argue a very dark cloud for really much of the country, because just like Trump's rise to power in 2015, in 2010, when he was at the height of The Apprentice, who could have ever connected the joke that the guy of a show that many of us liked. I liked The Apprentice. I thought it was funny and silly. Who could have predicted in 2010 what would begin to happen in 15 and then did happen in 16? That's exactly where we are at this moment with Ron DeSantis. To even possibly suggest this guy is not going to be damaging for Florida and damaging for America, we would be making a sorely great mistake if we made that assumption. And at the end of the day, again, I think ominous is the right word.
Well, two points that you were talking about. One, who could have predicted it? Actually, The Simpsons did. They have a bite where Lisa's president and she's like cleaning up the mess from President Trump. So that's who could have predicted it.
Okay.
But on a serious note, you watched the speech. It did not look like the inauguration of a governor. It looked like an inauguration of a president, and that's exactly the look that he wants to have for campaign materials and primary materials. I mean, they set up bleachers for this event, which they don't normally do for a governor's event. There were more people behind him and around him beyond just his family and Tallahassee leadership. This was staged to look like a presidential inauguration, so he can go, look, I look the role and I talk your language, of course, talking to the conservatives.
To all the conservatives, basically.
Absolutely, and you know, you said, Alice, it's dangerous for our state, it's dangerous for the country, it's dangerous for the world if he's really able to take a national stage in a greater way than he already has. I mean, there's a reason that he has the highest campaign war chest of any gubernatorial election. And
just sidebar, in 2021, he raised $200 million.
And that's because these people were not donating to a governor's re-election campaign, they were donating to a presidential campaign. And that's something that we have to recognize, is that it is no secret, despite the fact that he hasn't officially filed, it's no secret that there is some intention to have a grander national stage, and likely because he is pursuing a presidency. That's extremely dangerous when we're talking about a governor who is toyed with the ideas of having even further restrictions on reproductive care and abortion, when we've seen him, toy with the idea of having even looser gun legislation in a state that has the highest school the most deadly school shooting in the entire country, and had the second deadliest mass shooting in the entire country. That stuff is extremely dangerous.
Oh, so a couple of things. First of all, I hate you for making me watch this. We're going to start there, okay? Because it's just, it was nauseating to watch, all right? And this is what I got from the 16-minute speech of Governor Ron DeSantis. We're going to impose what we want to impose on you. Gays, go back into the closet I want you to be. We don't want you to breathe or exist. We will not protect you. We will protect big organizations. We will protect your employer, but not you. If you own a house, we're also not going to help you there. Peace out. That's what we got. He said Florida's number one in tourism, number one in this crap, number one in that crap, number one in hate is what we are.
Mm-hmm. And the scary part is he's the king of a spin master. What he did with Val Demings, creating that ominous cloud around her as the loud, brash black woman that was running against him, or running for office in Florida. He is the scariest part, is that he is a master at spinning things and saying we're taking care of your children. When taking care of your children means don't say gay. It means don't be who you are. That's what's so scary, is that he's so good at that rhetoric.
And to Max's point, you said he raised $200 million last year, and probably more than that in the 3 years of his first 3 years of his term. But he didn't spend all that money. He didn't spend $200 million to beat Charlie Crist by 20 points.
Right.
He is giving that money away. He is sponsoring candidates in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Republican candidates in Nashua, New Hampshire, Republican candidates in other big early primaries, because he's going to want those committee chairmen. And a lot of them are already getting on board for his run, which is shoring up his support, while Donald Trump still kind of just hangs out there in the ether while we kind of wait to see what happens with him.
I think it's important to recognize, as we're talking about the consequences of this ominous speech and what we are going to face over the next 2 years. One thing that we haven't said yet is he's mammothly successful at it. And we have to start there. This guy knows what he's doing. This bumbling kind of, I'm every person, I'm a panhandler, I'm in the reddest of the panhandle of rural Florida. This is a Harvard and Princeton educated attorney that knows exactly what he's doing. We know the color of his coat, and don't be fooled. This guy is smart. This guy is kicking everyone's ass. And I think that that's where we start, because over the next 2 years, if we have any hope in fighting and fending him off the LGBTQ community in Florida and then nationally, we have to recognize that we're watching a modern day, I think, political genius. And we have to approach things differently than what our normal advocacy has been from HRCs to Equality Florida's. Our standard defenses of civil rights are not going to work with this guy. And that's how we start.
And because, he is Trump, a smart Trump.
Yeah.
He's as scary as Trump, but scarier because he knows what he's doing.
Exactly.
And he can speak and put out that horror. Trump was great at making a big to-do, but there weren't, he really wasn't smart enough to be able to do a lot of the things he did, and there were protections
Ron
in place.
DeSantis is.
Ron DeSantis is smart enough to have the right people in place from day one to create a horror for the rest of us.
One of the things that he said that was freaky, he was like, we will leave Florida to God better than we got it. It's just like I know, Max.
He is dangerously calculated, and the fact of the matter is that he gets shit done. Not shit that we want him to get done, but he gets the shit that he wants to get done.
That's where we start in being able to understand the enemy that we face. We have to understand him first. One last thought that I think is important. The conversation is he going to run for president? I think there's almost no chance that he's not going to run for president, but he will have to, under current Florida law, he will have to no longer be governor to run for president. So if he can't declare for president of the United States tomorrow, because it would mean he would cease being governor of Florida. But As we also understand, the Florida legislature can change laws, and he's got a supermajority. So he can tell his supermajority House and Senate, this is what I want, and they can change laws. But until they do that, he can't run for president of the United States and be governor of Florida at the same time. Now we'll watch very closely what he does next. But it's probably going to be running for president of the United States.
Well, more DeSantis news as we queer up South Florida gay news. SFGN's owner is taking on Florida's anti-LGBTQ plus governor. Since taking office 4 years ago, Ron DeSantis has steamrolled not only LGBTQ plus and Democrats, but even Republicans. But there's one person who's not afraid to call him out and take him to court: Norm Kent. Queer News Tonight has reported on Governor DeSantis' latest crusade against drag entertainment, sparked by manufactured outrage because kids saw a show featuring RuPaul's Drag Race alumni. In this week's SFGN, online now and on stands tomorrow, Kent is taking the fight personally and taking it to DeSantis. He's found a plaintiff and plans to sue on behalf of them and all drag queens, citing attacks on their livelihoods and their First Amendment rights. He told me, quote, "I'll put Governor Ron DeSantis in jail before any drag queens are put in jail," end quote. DeSantis has threatened establishments with the loss of their liquor licenses, essentially putting them out of business if they are endangering children by exposing them to what can charitably be described as bawdy humor. Kent is a high-profile attorney who's dedicated his career to advancing LGBTQ plus rights. It hasn't been easy. There have been legal obstacles every time he turned around. But he's succeeded and plans to be victorious again, saying he's, quote, "coming back with a fury in 2023. I will fight like it's 1983, end quote. Never a shrinking violet, SFGN's founder is calling out the governor and his toadies for their hypocrisy, saying, quote, "the governor needs to be called out for what he is, not a conservative champion, but a self-righteous Neanderthal," end quote. Norm tells it like it is. That's what's made him friends, enemies, and plenty of frenemies. It's also what's helped advance LGBTQ plus rights. He's been fighting cancer the last couple of years, but it's not stopping him. During our conversation about the impending lawsuit, he told me, quote, "the wrong person went in for brain surgery. DeSantis is the one with a brain tumor, not me," end quote. And that is classic Norm Kent. Anybody who's been around South Florida gay politics for any amount of time knows that Norm is feisty. When he gets a bone to chew on, he is going to take it and take it and take it till it's absolutely destroyed. I think he could really make an impact between him, the correct legal team around him, and the right defendants.
And he's not afraid at all. Like in that interview, like I just think about like, you know, our houses and establishments like that are fearful that they won't have they won't have enough money to fight big DeSantis and what they're ready to fight for. You know, so what? Maybe they close your whole network, your whole newspaper up. Then what happens to you?
I've got 5 other jobs.
That's true. You do have 5.
You know, I think it's really telling when we see a governor who uses a 1940s Supreme Court, like Florida Supreme Court case as defense against our house. Absolutely ridiculous. Like it's heinous stuff. And what we see all the time, what I've seen increasingly is Republicans start off their big tirades with saying, "I don't know anything about what I'm talking about, but here's my opinion." I appreciate the humility in saying that, but don't give your opinion afterwards because it's obviously uninformed. We have to understand that drag is an art form that has a diverse spectrum, right? Much in the same way that you would take your kid to see like Up, or I don't know why I can think of a kids movie that's less than 15 years old, but you wouldn't take them to like an R-rated movie, and it's because there is a whole spectrum of intended audience for different performances. So maybe you're not going to take your kid to a drag show that's at a bar where they're scantily clad or whatever.
The show was at the Broward Performing Arts Center.
Right.
There were no children there.
Right.
There was a short woman that was 35 years old.
Yeah. And Max, to your point about R-rated movies, that is a point that Equality Florida drew in their response to this, that our movie theaters going to be sued and put out of business because a child under 17 is allowed into an R-rated movie with their parents? No, absolutely not. The ones that serve alcohol, are they going to have their liquor license removed? No, absolutely not. This is a target, because they're calling it sexually explicit material. Anything in that show and really just about anything you'd see at Pub on the Drive or Lips is nothing worse than you would see at in an R-rated movie.
It even gets worse than that.
Yeah.
He advocates for parental rights. And so a parent gets to decide, I'm going to bring my 12-year-old to an R-rated movie, or I'm going to bring my 12-year-old to Magic Mike live show, or to Hooters for dinner. That would meet the exact same standards that he's attacking drag queens for. The inconsistency of the equal protection under the law means he doesn't have a chance. First off, you're not going to get a court, even the most ridiculous of the conservative judges that Trump appointed over the 4 years are not going to say that First Amendment speech is controlled by the nature of watching a drag show because it is sexually explicit. You're not going to get a federal judge to do that. And if you even got a ridiculous federal judge to do that, it would be appealed and overturned. Even with the 6 majority that the Supreme Court has in its Republican conservativeness, it's unimaginable to me that the 6 majority would say your speech in a show is sexually explicit and therefore violates. It's a ridiculous standard. It is a completely ridiculous standard, which you suggested.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons I love this story so much. Norm Kent is one of the few people that can pick up the pin and poke the balloon and watch all of the helium come out of the Ron DeSantis, because he's from an era that can do that. I recently, as you all know, last month I interviewed Anthony Fauci, and we had extensive conversation that gets to ACT UP days in the gay community and Larry Kramer. And we need a dose of Larry Kramer these days. And locally for us, who is that? That's Norm Kent. And I love it. After all of the medical situations that he has, you know, he's the one that slapped the public screen cover of the SFGN and put Dean Trantelis in the priest outfit. And love him or hate him, you have to respect him. And I love that he's going to weigh in on this fight, because it's exactly what we need. We need Nadine Smiths and Kira Johnsons, but we also need Norm Kent's, and we need to attack him in various different ways. And this new, and at his age, and at this point in his life, after all of the medical and the things that he has gone through, if this gives him the one final, I'm going out with a bang. Bravo, Norm Kent.
Yeah, he needs this.
Bravo, he needs it.
Absolutely.
And by the way, and he would tell you, don't say this is my final hurrah. He's going to tell you he's got plenty more in him.
Yes.
He's going to go after you next.
You
might want to be careful.
All right.
I'm going to run this tape.
Rerun the tape. At the end of the day, he is going to make, I believe him, he's going to make mincemeat of him. I challenge somebody in Tallahassee, please arrest a drag queen. Arrest the owner at our house. Please take that action. Because there are people like Norm Kent that are going to kick your legal ass. Mark my words.
Norm Kent, you're a badass. Next up, we queer up courts. Amber McLaughlin becomes first openly transgender woman executed in the U.S. Amber McLaughlin, 49, became the first openly transgender woman executed in the U.S. Missouri Governor Mike Parson had confirmed. She was executed by lethal injection Tuesday for killing a former girlfriend in 2003. Prior to the execution, Parson said, quote, McLaughlin's conviction and sentence remain after multiple thorough examinations of Missouri law. McLaughlin stalked, raped, and murdered Miss Gunther. Miss McLaughlin is a violent criminal. Ms. Gunther's family and loved ones deserve peace. The state of Missouri will carry out McLaughlin's sentence according to the court's order and deliver justice, end quote. There is no known case of an openly transgender inmate being executed in the U.S. before, according to the Anti-Execution Death Penalty Information Center. A friend in prison says she saw McLaughlin's personality blossom during her gender transition. According to court records, before transitioning, McLaughlin was in a relationship with girlfriend Beverly Gunther. McLaughlin would show up up at the suburban St. Louis office where the 45-year-old Gunther worked, sometimes hiding inside the building itself. Gunther's neighbors called the police the night she was killed, November 20th, 2003, after she failed to return home. In a written statement of her final words, McLaughlin wrote, quote, "I am sorry for what I did. I'm a loving and caring person," end quote. She's still a murderer. Okay, at the end of the day, she's still a murderer. I'm sorry that you're the first trans person to do so, to be executed. The only thing I can say positively is that at least you died being your true, authentic self.
I just find it really interesting that she transitioned while she was in jail. I don't know why that is like such a thing in my head that I'm trying to understand.
They didn't allow it in Missouri for a long time. They recently did allow that. And so according to the story, she had a cellmate or somebody else who transitioned. And during that time, during her talks, she figured out that she also needed to transition again. And they assisted her with that.
Yeah. It's just barbaric and brutal. This doesn't have anything to do with her being trans. The fact that we are in a club with Russia, China, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, just to name a few. It's barbaric that we still have the death penalty when we have really incredibly secure prisons. It's called a supermax for a reason. They're called maximum security for a reason. There hasn't been a major escape of a death row inmate in decades, and the one that there may have been was huge news because it doesn't happen. The fact that we are still doing ritual killings in our prison is abhorrent.
At the end of the day, it's counterproductive. It's vengeful, and it's rooted in hate. No matter which way you frame it, it's absolutely abhorrent. The fact that we're one of the only wealthy countries in the world that does not, or that still has a death penalty is absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I almost wish we didn't have this story. I don't want this on our side, on LGBTQ+. I don't want that mark there, like, oh, the first transgender person executed. We don't want that.
Right. All right, Max, let's talk about something a little
lighter.
All right, next let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Smart Ride 19 check presentation for $1 million.
Cha-ching!
And SR20 launches. The Smart Ride is a 2-day, 165-mile bicycle ride from Miami to Key West every November. Smart Ride is the second largest AIDS bicycle ride in the country and the only one of its size to give back 100%. The event guarantees that every penny that is raised will be given to AIDS service organizations and directed to prevention, education, and direct services. The organization believes in making a real difference. We can change the world and help free future generations living with HIV, while helping those already affected, infected, or at risk today stay healthy. This event is unlike similar types of events. On January 15th, Sunday at 2 p.m. at Hunter's Nightclub, Wilton Manors, Smart Ride 19 will be holding a check presentation ceremony for a $1 million check, and the launch of Smart Ride 20 will be announced too. Participants can go to thesmartride.org to enroll for the Smart Ride 20 event. I wonder who designed that site.
I don't know. Somebody had a little influence, and I have a little knowledge of this story. First off, we're actually going to be giving away over $1 million. Going into the event, it didn't look like we were going to hit $1 million this year. And I'm usually pretty optimistic, and I was pretty sure we weren't going to do it. And the riders and crew surprised the living crap out of me on Saturday morning. I told them I rarely let them know where we're at as we get close to the million, but I knew we weren't going to be there.
We were about 40,000 short.
We were 40,000 in the morning, and about an hour and a half before we actually announced the total, we were 12,000 off. We were announcing 988. And I felt comfortable enough to tell the ceremonies team, do the 988 on one side and do $1 million on the back side of those cards that you're going to flip. And we just challenged the audience and said, or challenged the participants and said, we're $12,000 away. If you promise me that in the next couple of weeks, by the end of November or the end of December, you can raise 12 grand, we'll announce $1 million now. And the crowd, you were there, Al, the crowd was just like exuberant about, we can do this. And they not only reached that 12,000 within a week, but they far exceeded it. And so I'm looking forward to Sunday, January 15th at 2 p.m. at Hunter's. to be able to let everyone know how much they actually raised, which is going to.
You know, it's interesting to me. I've been familiar with the Smart Ride for a long, long time, and for various.
But you've not
reasons.
ridden in it.
I have not ridden.
You did make me that promise.
Yes, I did make you that promise. I participated this year, and I reported, did lots of video, did lots of social media sharing on it. It was really, and you know, I've heard Glenn say this over and over again, and I would just say to those that are listening, you should come to the check writing, check presentation ceremony, meet many of the people that are involved in this, especially the agencies that benefit. There's 6 agencies around Florida that benefit from this. One of the misnomers is it's all toward HIV services. It isn't. Lots of services that HIV providers or regular healthcare providers, they do all kinds of things, and the stories are very inspirational. But for me personally, I did both days. I ended up staying the night at Hawks Key, where's the Middle Keys, overnight. Then I stayed in Key West another night. And it was so shocking to me because my favorite parts of the ride were the stops. I would stop at a water stop, and I would be there for 15 or 20 minutes, and I would talk to people, and I would interview them. Why are you doing this? What is it? What's this all really about? And it was very motivational. I came away from the 2 days going, wow, this was really good for me. And that was completely unexpected because I know the value of Smart Ride and Smart Ride 19 and this moment of Glenn and Smart Ride being short of $1 million and having the plea on the stage of saying, you know, we could say we get to $1 million if you'll make a commitment at the end of November, by the end of the year, that we can do that. And Glenn's getting ready to announce that. That's really, really motivational. And for me, an absolute highlight was, what's the bakery place in the Keys?
Baby's Coffee.
Oh, my goodness. Baby's Coffee. And they turn the entire place over to the Smart Ride, and all of their employees are there, and they're making pastries and donuts and danishes and coffees, and they're giving it away to every single person. And I sat down at a table with 6 people that live in the island that Baby's Coffee is at. And I asked them, I said, well, do you know what's going on here? And they knew every detail. They live there, and they had come specifically because Baby's Coffee was doing the Smart Ride there. And I interviewed in the kitchen the 2 owners, yes, and he had done it for a long time. And they both said, this is the single best day of our entire year in our business. And it's like, wow.
And not for money.
And not for money.
Single best day because of the event. They don't make a lot of money that day. What they gave out in free pizza bagels, there's no way they brought any income to cover that.
Right. It's impossible.
Really good pizza bagel.
And it was just really interesting because, wait, y'all are clearly not gay. And no. But this is a great cause, and more importantly, we love the people that come through on this, and so therefore we're supportive of it.
I love that.
It was just
That's so
beautiful.
And it's not just gay people who ride in Smart, right? You have a ton of allies. You have a bunch of people that have been doing it for 10 years plus, right?
We have several that are participants. This will be their 20th year coming up. That have been on every single event. And
beautiful. And you've already got your dates for next year. I'm so freaking proud of you, Glenn.
So not only do we have our dates for next year, we have our dates picked up for the next couple of years. So it'll be November 17th and 18th this coming year. It'll be our 20th anniversary. And last year in May, we had around 360 people registered. Right now, we have more people registered than we did in May of 2021 for that ride.
Wow.
So we are so far ahead that
this is the
that
first
is
week
going to
of
be
January.
It's the first week of January.
And that's a really optimistic sign because Glenn's challenge for Smart Ride 20 is
$2 million.
$2 million.
Are you serious, Dad?
And I know we're going to do it.
And you're going to do it.
There's no question in my mind that we're going to do it. The enthusiasm of people returning for the 20th anniversary, there's just so much out there. And the amount of money that they raised with 80 less riders this year, I mean, we're down from 3 years ago in our numbers consistently. And I know this year, everyone raising the kind of money they're raising, that they will blow it out of the water.
You know,
no question.
when you said that you challenged them to raise $12,000 over the last month of the year, and you made it, that surprises me not one bit. Because every year I get to, when I write for SFGN or I write for other outlets down here, you always introduce me to some of your longtime writers.
Right.
And the passion that they have is not something that they're just doing for, reporter boy over here. They truly, truly believe that. So when you say the goal is $2 million this year, I have zero doubts that a year from now we'll all be at this table and saying congratulations on.
And I'm going to be your emotional support lesbian.
No way.
I am not writing. I will be your emotional support lesbian.
She's trying to, hold on, Glenn. She's trying to beat me to it. I know.
You want to be emotional support lesbian?
I know Glenn's and Smart Ride 20 is going to make the $2 million goal, because while I was in Key West on the Saturday night after everything is said and done, I hung out with some people and I drank far too much and I had a fabulous, fabulous time. And then I started to hear from my Cuban friend who runs SunServe say, oh yeah, we're going to have a team next year. We're going to be involved. And you know who's going to be riding with us? FayWhat?
Tony needs to stop drinking. That needs to happen in Lima.
I know the $2 million is going to be had because they're going to have this.
I'm going to be in the basket of Tony.
One of the things that surprised me on year one and year two, yes, we raise a lot of money. Yes, it goes to great services and stuff like that. But it's the people leaving that event like you did, Al. But it's also the people leaving the event that work for these agencies that come back with a renewed vigor, a new sense of determination. Because like all of us, when we're focused on our job, sometimes you don't look up from the screen long enough to appreciate everything that's going around you. Yeah. And when those agencies see the people that are out there supporting them, when they see the people on the road, when they see the sponsors like Baby's Coffee, and you see, all those people out there, they come back and realize they're not alone either. That there's this huge community that's supporting them, and they come back and do their job better because
they want to do more.
Because they've got a greater passion for what they do. Yeah. And I think what's also important, and just quickly, at the check party on the 15th at Hunters, we're also going to be doing some ceremonial checks for some of our 10% lifeliners that have or will just be receiving additional funds. So to show the reach far and beyond just the 6 benefiting agencies, but there'll be some receiving money that day as well.
Yeah, so, we remind you, we're very happy to be, Glenn's such a good ally to Queer News Tonight, and it's anchored at the show many, many times. I do it much better than he does. But
can we just save that one clip and take the second part out?
But we do so many tough stories. In 2022, we did more than 2,000 stories. Tomorrow will be our 2-year anniversary of Queer News Tonight. Tomorrow.
Happy anniversary.
And in 2022, 2,000 stories. We do so many stories that are really tough because we're reporting the news in the community. This is one that you can really get behind that is a really great story for our community.
Thank you.
It's not only a great story in terms of how it helps, but it is a great story in terms of how you participate. One of the greatest things that you could do when you see this story is share it. Mm-hmm. Share this story with people and say, I think we should support Smart Ride 2020. And that's all you have to say. Share this story, listen to Glenn, listen to what happened at Smart Ride. Come to January 15th at Hunters at 2 p.m. Watch that check presentation and meet many of the people that are involved in this, including the beneficiaries, and you'll feel better about the LGBTQ community. Congratulations, Smart Ride 19, and we are launching Smart Ride 20. Wow. We're going to target $2 million. For Smart Ride.
Make it rain, Glenn, make it rain.
All right, let's get back to the news. Okay, it's time to queer up the world view. Is the world's largest democracy ready for same-sex marriage? India's Supreme Court gets ready. Could same-sex marriage or civil unions be a reality in India soon? The Supreme Court is geared up to hear pleas this month that address the controversial topic. While the government has opposed same-sex marriages, the Supreme Court has increasingly moved the needle on ideas of marriage, family, and women's rights. The Supreme Court will hear pleas related to same-sex marriage in January after at least 4 gay couples approached the top court in India to seek a legal nod for LGBTQ+ unions in the absence of which such couples do not have access to several rights that heterosexual couples do. The central government has so far been opposed to same-sex marriages, with a counsel for the administration in 2021 observing that Indian society was basically a socially recognized union of 2 individuals, which is either governed by uncodified personal laws, or codified statutory laws. The Center's counsel told the Delhi High Court in 2021, quote, "There is no acceptance of the institution of marriage between two individuals of the same gender, either in personal laws or codified statutory laws," end quote. While the courts may formulate progressive laws, the success of these will depend on a transformed society. 33 countries, including the United States, have legalized same-sex marriage, and some have recognized same-sex civil unions. Several advocates for same-sex marriage point out that not allowing such an arrangement violates several fundamental laws laid down by the Indian Constitution. I think this is amazing because they are the largest democratic nation, yet has so many conservative views on same-sex marriage, on women's rights, and the Supreme Court taking a step over and beyond the governing body, the political institution, and saying to an organization or to the institution, no, you need to really step back. This is not right as a country. I think it's a very good step in this world.
It's a step in the right direction, right?
Absolutely.
I interviewed this beautiful trans tattoo artist from New Delhi on the FayWhat show last year. And her name is Bruna. And she is a beautiful trans woman that has to change every time she leaves the tattoo shop to go home because she can't walk the way that she authentically feels to go home without getting battered or violently hurt. And so I think that, a law like this passing maybe paves the way for our trans brothers and sisters in India to, get seen and get spotlighted and get those rights that they so desperately need.
It's one step in the right direction.
Right?
And it's small incremental steps is how we get to change. Big changes don't always happen successfully. Right. It's all those small ones adding up to get to that final change.
And when you have the cover of law, you feel more comfortable about possibly coming out. So people are going to say, oh, well, there's only 20% support in India. Well, that's 20% of people that are willing to say they are.
Right.
So once you have the cover of law, people are going to be like, okay, well, maybe I'll leave my small town and go to New Delhi to get married or to have my life. So once that starts happening, we saw it here in America. Once things started to come in Massachusetts, it all just snowballed.
Right. I have to say I'm happy that Queer News Tonight does stories like this. In the last year, we've done a lot of reporting of international stories in queering up the world, and India is one of the places that we focus. I remind the South Florida LGBTQ community, Florida LGBTQ community, and in general the American LGBTQ community. A lot of what goes on here has effect on other places in the world. And one of the places that really has had significant effect is in India. A very surprising fact that maybe you're not aware of. You wouldn't be aware of the first. I have a lot of friend requests that come from India. And the reason that they come from India is I don't know them, but they are friend requesting me because we're talking about LGBT rights in India. And as a result, I'm getting lots of friend requests. Another interesting to me fact in this story as we follow what's happening in the Supreme Court in India is this story was written by a reporter, copy story writer in India. This story is written by an Indian who is a lesbian talking about hopes and dreams for India, appearing on an American LGBT news show. That is fantastic. It is fantastic.
It's beautiful.
And it's enriching for us that the effect of our community as we fight for our rights here, it can be inspirational for other communities around the world, especially in India. So we're very proud of that.
Well, lesbian writer, I love you. Thank you for writing all of that.
I should say her name. Himangi.
Yeah, say her name.
Himangi.
Yep. All right, you need papers? I got you.
A lesbian? No, I'm talking about you. Lesbian shouts out to lesbian in India.
Yes, completely. Thank you for all you do. Thank you. And we feel your hopes and dreams, and we hope that all those things come true, and you deserve all of it. Thank you for all you do. So next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church right here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we're broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out Television Studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. with more than 30,000 watching every week.
Hi, I'm Matthew Darren, former American Idol contestant and singer-songwriter, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only LGBTQ plus evening news show.
You know, our community has grown quite a bit over the last 2 years, and as you celebrate, you mentioned we're going to have our 2-year anniversary tomorrow. So Al, congratulations. I came in about 7 months into this project. I'm so grateful to be here. Al, congratulations to you, Darren, our entire support crew, Steve, David, everybody else here, Luna, who's my favorite. Congratulations on 2 years, Al.
Thank you very much.
Proud of everything we've done. And if our community is important to you, then share the news with your family and friends. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience, watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
Well, I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat, John Hayden, Maxx Fenning, and Glen Weinzimer, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. Good night.
Good night.